Minnesotans seeking an e-bike rebate check were met with a bumpy ride as the state's website launch dealt with server errors.
The new state rebate program is meant to encourage people to use renewable transportation. But as Valley News Team's Quinn Gorham explains, the launch has left a sour taste in some people's mouths.
The website crashed and was completely not functional, and now the Department of Revenue is kind of scrambling to figure out what they're going to do next.
Michael Wojak, executive director of the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota, was not impressed with Wednesday's e-bike rebate rollout.
We want the Department of Revenue to fix the problems, and it seems like contractors were largely the problem.
The acrimonious rollout was riddled with server errors and capped off when the department paused the process altogether. Wojak's organization played a key part in getting the legislation passed in 2023, and while the website's failure was, as he stated, catastrophic, the idea is still a good one.
Just the cost of housing and the cost of parking to go along with that. We know that this is a tool that benefits a lot of folks in cities throughout Minnesota.
But despite the bumpy rollout, bike shop owners say that this has really been a net positive. A rebate program like this encourages people to come into their bike stores and is admittedly good for business.
The rebate program really helps promote local shops. Most of the retailers as a part of the program are all small businesses.
Crystal Sursley is an operations manager at Lowertown Bike Shop. The store has several e-bikes on sale, and she believes the server issues Wednesday are a sign the program will be popular.
For me, I think it's a positive thing, even though it might be frustrating and a bit of a hiccup, that people are that interested to get on bicycles.
At its core, a program the biking community is excited about, but one that has some work to do before it's ready.
I have had no shortage of people telling me what they really think about this, and there's a lot of anger and frustration and a lot of anxiety about what comes next.
In St. Paul, Quinn Gorham, Valley News Live.
The Department of Revenue says only about 80 applications were submitted before the site shut down. They do hope to issue an update on that program early next week.
Coming up next in sports, one of their former All-Stars returned to the FM Redhawks lineup yesterday. He had quite the welcome home. Hear from Drew Ward coming up next.